Hello, this is Mark Edwards. This video offers an overview of the first session on how to get the best out of your iPhone. Sessions 2 and following will be recorded live, but the first session was not, even though it was repeated 3 times. Hence this video overview. There is a printed cookbook of instructions that goes with this first session. You should be able to pick up a copy from Mark Sylvester, our Riverwoods staff helper with IT. You'll need it if you decide to set up some of the approaches discussed in the first session. My approach to learning about the iPhone involves 3 steps plus 1. First, know that the iPhone has a particular capability that you may wish to use. Second, know how to set up that capability. Often this is the most technical step. Fortunately, this step can often be outsourced to a more experienced iPhone user or to Mark Sylvester. It is also covered in this session's cookbook. Third, know how to use the capability. Cookbooks can help here as well. And I trust that this brief video will whet your appetite to learn more and to play with these 2 important functionalities. The plus 1 is to know how to get know-how quickly and easily. One of my goals with this series is that we can significantly increase the number of Riverwood Durham residents willing to help others with iPhone questions, setup, and usage of useful capabilities. There is a disclaimer, however. I personally will not be answering one-on-one questions. Not because I don't want to help, obviously I do since I'm offering this series, but because there's only one of me and so many of you, and only so many hours in the day. So if you come to me and say, Mark, I have a question about my iPhone, I'll answer, you have the wrong Mark. You need to talk with Mark Sylvester. The first session covered 3 big topics: Spotlight Search, Control Center, and finding good help online. Put in terms of the first 3 steps, the first step in my 3-step approach to learning to get the best out of your iPhone. First, know that there are ways to quickly search the contents of your phone, namely Spotlight Search. 2, know that there is a way quickly to access common iPhone controls and utilities. And 3, know that Google can help if you ask it the right questions in the right way. Spotlight Search and Control Center offer a great deal of functionality, and they do so with relatively little effort on your part. These 2 built-in capabilities make your iPhone easier to use in day-to-day activities. One last preliminary. You need to know whether your iPhone is a Touch ID version or a Face ID version. A Touch ID version has a home button at the bottom below the screen. You see it here on the left. A Face ID version is all screen. It has a sensor on the front that identifies your face and logs you in. The Touch ID reads your finger and logs you in. The 2 models handle a few commands differently. Let's start with the most obvious difference. The command for Go Home or Go to the Home screen. You're probably already familiar with how to make this command work. On a Touch iPhone, you simply click the Home button once. That's fairly easy. On a Face ID iPhone, you use a gesture. You put your finger at the bottom of the screen, and then with a quick flick or swipe, you go upwards. Let's see what this looks like on a Face ID iPhone. I'm recording this video on my iPhone 14 Max Pro or Pro Max. Right now, I am in the app Keynote, the native iPhone app for presentations. If I want to exit Keynote and go to the home screen, I use the gesture for Go Home. I put my finger at the very bottom of the screen, Actually, my finger is half on the screen, half on the bezel of the iPhone. Now I quickly flick my finger upwards. Now I'm back at the home screen. You can also use this to go from one of the home screen pages to the page 1 of the home screen. Here, I'll show you. Let's page a few pages forward. I'm now on the 3rd page of the home screen. I put my finger down at the bottom, I flick upwards, and I'm back at page 1 of the home screen. So as we go forward, those of you with Touch ID iPhones, that is iPhones with a home button at the bottom of the phone, will click to go home. And those with Face ID iPhones will quickly swipe from the bottom to achieve the same thing. Now we're going to explore Spotlight Search. It works the same way on both iPhone types. It provides a useful and quick shortcut for finding all sorts of things on the iPhone. I personally use it mainly for finding apps that are not on page 1 of my home screen. It is easier and faster than scrolling through pages, or even scrolling through the app library looking for a lesser used app. It's also easier and faster even for a frequently used app that just happens not to be on the first page of my home screen. I also sometimes use Spotlight Search to initiate searches in Safari. You'll see this here in a second. Finally, I occasionally use Spotlight Search to find information stored in various other apps. When given the proper permissions, and I explain how to set the proper permissions in the cookbook that is for this lesson, Spotlight Search can search the databases of various native iPhone apps such as Messages, or Contacts, or Notes, or Maps, and so on. It can even search some third-party apps. You just have to give permission, and the app has to have the facility to do that. Here's a diagram. You see here a diagram for the swipe that you use on either type of phone. You put your finger down on the middle of the screen, but not atop either an icon or widget. If you put it too close to the icon or widget, you may invoke something that you're not intending, either the app itself or perhaps jiggle mode. Instead, you put it down on the wallpaper, that is the colored background, and then you slowly swipe down the screen until Spotlight Search appears. Let me illustrate on my 14 Pro Max. And I'm in Keynote right now. And so the first thing I have to do is exit the Keynote app and go to my home screen. Those of you on a touch iPhone would just click once. I will put my finger at the bottom of the screen and swipe quickly up. I'm now back on my home screen. You can see there in the center a large widget. You don't want to put your finger on that. And you can see below it, where I am going to put my finger, I'll want to put it between the Lyra app and the Files app and not directly on either one. I'll put it down and then pull down slowly. Oh, you see what I did there? I touched it and I've turned on jiggle mode. We don't want that, so let's try again. There. I missed the app and I immediately go into Spotlight Search. And by the way, you can tell it's Spotlight Search because there in the middle of the screen you see a search bar and the cursor is blinking on that search bar. It has the magnifying glass to indicate search. It says search. And over on the right it has the microphone icon if you want to dictate what you're looking for. Let's try searching for a weather app. First, I take a look at the apps that are at the top. These are ones that Siri thinks I might be interested in opening now. They may be the most recently used apps, or they may be apps that Siri thinks make sense given what I've been doing up to this point. There are 2 rows of apps, app icons, And up in the top right, there's a toggle that says Show Less. See it here? If you tap on the Show Less, it will do just that. And we'll go down to just one line. Most of the time I leave Show More on, and I'll tap on Show More again. This way, when I invoke Spotlight Search, I'm more likely to find the app I'm looking for immediately. But in this case, there is no weather app. That's what we're going to be looking for. So down in the search bar, I type WEA, and that's enough to find 3 weather apps. See that up there at top hit? Weather, Hello Weather, and Get Current Weather. 3 different ways of getting weather. You also notice there in the middle of the screen that it's also looked for a website that offers weather. There is the Weather Channel that it shows you there. And if I scroll down a little bit further, you'll see that it also names Wunderground, Weather Underground, and AccuWeather. More than that, it shows what the weather actually is, because the iPhone, Siri and the iPhone keeps track of what the weather is where your phone is, if it's properly set up. So it says it's Durham, New Hampshire, mostly cloudy, 46 degrees. So that's the way I use it most often. I look for a particular app. I also could use it to look for something online. In this case, the weather has thrown up these possible websites, and if that's what I was looking for, I would just tap on that, and I'd be off and running. Now, let's go back. I'm going to type on the white X that you see down at the bottom now, the search bar. It says WEA. To the right, there is the X in a white circle. I'm going to tap on that, and that erases what was in the search bar. I'm still, however, in Spotlight Search, and I'm going to look for information about my daughter. Maybe I want to telephone her or send her a text, and I can't remember her phone number. So I'm going to type in the search bar Teon, T-E-O-N. This is an unusual name, but her parents were sort of hippies, and so this is the name we've come up with, and she likes it, so we're all happy. Now, look at the top. There is Teon, Miss Edwards Teon, and there are 3 icons across the top. The first one is the icon for FaceTime. If I tapped that, the iPhone would try to initiate a FaceTime call with my daughter. Next to that is the speech bubble, the bubble with a little pointer out of it. That's the icon for messages. If I tap that, it would start a message, a text message to my daughter. And I would just have to fill in what the content would be. Finally, there is the phone. When was the last time phones looked like that? I don't know, but in any case, there it is. Tap on that, and it would initiate a phone call. While we're here, though, let's look at some of the other things that Spotlight Search has managed to find. If we scroll down a little bit, under Messages, we find 3 messages from Teon, or that have Teon's name in them. So, given the right permissions, Spotlight Search will search within Messages for recent messages. Then scroll a little further under Calendar, and you can see there are 3 calendar entries with Teon in the title of the calendar. Below that, there are websites that are not very interesting, but then there's CardHop, which is a third-party app for contacts, which does more things than the built-in app, so I use that often. Below that is Photos, and here are some pictures, recent pictures of Teon and her dad and her mom. And then finally at the bottom, it gives us the opportunity to search Maps, search Notes, or search the App Store. If I wanted to search Notes to look for something about Teon, I'd tap on Search Notes. Okay, That's Spotlight Search. It is a very efficient and fast way to do a lot of things. As I said, I use it most often looking for an app. It's easier to type a couple letters and then tap on it than it is to page back and forth looking for an app that isn't right there on the first page of my home screen. I also use it sometimes to initiate searches on Safari. And finally, I use it occasionally to look up things in contacts or in messages or email or calendar. And it's often a faster way to find that information than it is going directly to the app, initiating the app, looking through it, and so on. In the cookbook, there are instructions for how to set up Spotlight Search so it searches these various other native iPhone or third-party iPhone apps. Remember, you may not be able to search some of these apps without setting it up and giving it permissions to search. Some of them the iPhone will have set up for you, but others it'll be your choice. And I show you how to do this in the cookbook. Now let's take a look at Control Center. Control Center gives you immediate access to handy controls and utilities. I use it whenever I want to, say, turn on airplane mode, or quickly start the built-in camera, or turn on the flashlight, or set a timer, or change the brightness of my iPhone, magnify text when I can't find my glasses, and much more. It's one-stop shopping for controls and handy, frequently used native utilities. Confusingly, perhaps, this is the second gesture that differs from Touch ID or Face ID models, just like Go Home differed between the two models. Here we see a diagram for how to invoke Control Center from a Face ID phone. You touch down your finger on the top right of the screen and slowly pull or drag the finger down the right side of the screen. With a bit of practice, you'll find that you can make this work correctly every time. Now, here's a diagram of how you invoke Control Center from a Touch ID phone. You can put your finger at the bottom of the screen and slowly drag up. There's a story about the confusion that initially ensued when folks made the transition from Touch ID phones to Face ID phones. The same gesture meant different things on the two phones. Many of you will recognize that this pull up slowly from the bottom of the screen is the gesture used on Face ID phones to invoke App Switcher. Here, now, on a Touch ID phone, we're using it to invoke Control Center. More on this at another time. Let's invoke the Control Center. Again, I'm using my 14 Pro Max for the creation of this video. So first I have to leave Keynote and go to my home screen. Since I'm on a Face ID phone, I touch the bottom and swipe up quickly. I'm now on my home screen. Now I put my finger at the top right of the screen and pull down slowly. And I'm now in Control Center. Let's go through at least some of what you see here on the screen. In the left group of 4 icons, you have airplane mode, cell phone, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth. You click on or tap on the airplane if you want to go into airplane mode. And it turns off the cell phone and Wi-Fi. But in my case, it leaves on Bluetooth because I need that for my connection to my iPhone. Tap on airplane mode again, and we're back to cell phone and Wi-Fi, as well as Bluetooth. To the right is the control for playing music or movies, depending what I was running last. As you can see, I am going through Taylor Swift's latest works. Below that, in the far left, is a padlock that's open. If you tap on that, it locks the orientation of the phone. That is, with it unlocked, if you're in something like the New York Times and you turn your phone into a landscape orientation, it will reorder all the text to spread across the face of your phone in landscape. Now, that's not something you always want to have happen. It may be that you want to lie down, but keep the reading in portrait mode so that you, who are in landscape orientation, and the phone in landscape still can be easily read. So what you do is you tap this, it goes red, the padlock locks, and now if you move the phone from portrait to landscape, the material, the content of the screen will not change. Tap on it again and we're out of orientation lock. We'll ignore the next control. It's basically saying that I'm recording this. Next to that then is the long sort of control that allows you to control the brightness of your screen. You put your finger on it and you can pull down and it'll get dimmer. You can pull up, it'll get brighter. You obviously can't tell this from the recording, but on my screen it went dimmer and then brighter. Next to that is the volume control, which is turned totally on at the moment. To the left then of these two up and down pills is the focus mode. And that's an advanced topic that we will cover in some future session, assuming the sessions keep going. Below that is the home. I won't talk about that now. There's the Office HomePod, which is the speakers. That is a control you have there. Below that, you have 2 rows of 4 icons and then a final row of 2. Among those icons are flashlight. There are many ways you can invoke flashlight on the phone, but this is one. Go to Control Center, tap on flashlight, the light will go on. When you want to turn it off, go to Control Center, tap on it, it goes off. Next to it is the magnifier. You click on this. The phone uses the camera app and shows video that is magnified on your screen. So if you can't find your glasses and you're myopic, you can use this to read text or see various other things. And you can combine it with the flashlight if you need to have both light and reading something, magnifying something. Next to it is the stopwatch. You tap it. You're timing something and see how long it lasts. You tap it again, and it'll give you the time. Next to that are timers, just the opposite. You can set a time, 15 minutes. It will start it. It will count down, and when it hits the end, finishes 15 minutes, it'll ring at you. Use this frequently for dinner. Below that is the calculator. Next to that is wallet, and so on across the end. The 2 worth pointing out at the bottom, one is the camera. You tap on the camera and it will bring up the camera. Again, there are various ways you can invoke the camera on an iPhone, and when we do a session on taking pictures, I will discuss the different ways you can bring the camera up quickly when you have something you want to take a picture of immediately. You don't want to fool around looking for the app. There turns out to be various shortcuts to get to the camera. And next to that is the alarm clock. Now, the important thing to realize is that I picked out these particular controls and put them in my control center. You may want to have a different set. You may prefer not to have some of the things I have and want to have others which are options but are not currently on my control center. In the cookbook, I explain how you go about doing this. I will show you briefly, without going through the steps, what some of your choices are. So first, get out of Control Center. And I do a spotlight search for settings. The settings app is already up there at the top, so I tap on it. Then, in the middle of the screen, it says Control Center. See that right there? I tap on that. I've turned on Access Within Apps and Show Home Controls, and then you can see a long list of what are called included controls. These controls are the ones that are in my control center. If I wanted to get rid of one, I would type the red minus and it would go away. For example, let's say I didn't want the screen recording icon. I'll tap on that red minus sign. And then it says remove. I tap remove. It's gone. It's actually not really gone. It's just down into more controls, which are ones that I could put on my control center, but I haven't. Some of these are really worth exploring, and in some of them we will explore when we look more at accessibility shortcuts for people who have poor vision or poor hearing or wearing a hearing aid or have other things that would need to be changed in the iPhone to make life easier. For example, if you go down after guided access, there is hearing. Did you know that you could actually, if you have a hearing aids with Bluetooth, you can turn your iPhone into a microphone for your hearing aid. You can put it down on a table and the whole table surface can act as sort of a part of the amplifier. There's low power mode, notes, quick note, screen recording, sound recognition, and so on and so on. You can even put a control on that allows you to change the size of text on the fly. Again, if you go to the cookbook, it will explain in more detail how to get here and how to change the controls and set up Control Center the way you want it. How to ask Google the right question in the right way to get the help or information that you truly want and need. Now, using Google skillfully is a big topic, and we may spend a whole session on this topic in a future presentation. In the first presentation, I only had time to mention 2 approaches to Google that can help the user find the best information about iPhone more easily and quickly. First, how to use search tools to narrow your search to the right time period. Second, how to use the operator cite, S-I-T-E, : to limit your search to a particular internet site. For iPhone help, that site is often support.apple.com, but it could also be a reliable YouTube channel or the URL for a computer magazine that you trust. And not surprisingly, you can use both of these operators to search for all sorts of things that have nothing to do with your iPhone. By the way, there are many other operators that would be discussed in a full class. Some background. Safari is the iPhone's default browser. If you change this, which you can do, the following will not apply exactly to your situation, but will work if you invoke Google directly on whatever browser you do use. Second, the default search engine in Safari is Google, who, famously, pays a great deal annually to be the iPhone's default search engine. If you're using a different search engine, you'll need to invoke Google Search directly if you want to use these 2 tools. Now, let's exit Keynote and invoke the Safari browser. Okay, here I am on my home screen. Down in my dock, you can see Phone, Safari, 1Password, and Drafts. Those are the 4 icons. And I'm going to tap on Safari, which is the compass with the red and yellow pointers. Okay, we're now in Safari, which, as I said, has Google as its default search engine. To invoke the search engine, you simply type into the search bar, or the UL bar, which now I've brought up, the material you want to search for. And I'm going to put in Spotlight Search. And then I'm going to tap Go. Okay. You see it's first surfaced an article from Wikipedia, and then it deals with certain questions. And by the way, its use of artificial intelligence, so-called large language models, is confusing now and perhaps less helpful than one thinks. But that's a topic for another time. I want you to look at the top where it says all images, shopping, videos, news, maps, and so on. Put your finger on that and scroll over from right to left until you find search tools. See it right there? Tap search tools and you have anytime, all results, advanced search. Those are topics for the future session. We're going to just use anytime. We're going to tap on anytime. And now you get a choice. And what you would do with this choice is you limit the search results to things that have appeared on the internet within the past hour, the past 24 hours, the past week, the past month, the past year. Why is this helpful? Well, if you have a brand new phone, you only want to get articles about whatever you're dealing with for the latest version, so you want to search for answers in the last year. On the other hand, if you have a phone that's 7 years old, you may want to search in that period 7 years ago. And exactly how you do that is, again, a topic for a future session. But for now, the most common thing that I use is past year. So you tap on past year, and it redoes the search, and it puts things right at the top that have been updated recently. And as you can see with the date on Apple support, has used Spotlight Search on your iPhone, iPad, or iPod Touch, February 21, 2024. So there is information. It's recent information. It's from Apple support, so it's likely to be reliable. The one problem with Apple support is sometimes it is too curt. That is, you would really like more detail, more explanation than it gives. But as a general rule, I always start with Apple support first. It's reliable, and it comes from the official source. So that is search tools. And there's more to search tools, quite a bit more to search tools. But this is the one that I use most often. Secondly, there's what's called operators. Operators are pieces of text or symbols that you put in the search line itself that tell Google that you want to modify the search in certain ways. And the one I'm mentioning here is cite, S-I-T-E : because what it does is it limits the search to a particular website. So instead of searching the whole internet for information, it searches something like support.apple.com. So if we go up here and put in front of and put cite : support dot apple dot com space, whoops, the M back, space, Spotlight Search. It will look for Spotlight Search only at the site support.apple.com. There. Now, in this case, it didn't help very much because we'd already surfaced this support article. But as you can see, these are all from support.apple.com. They're not from any other place. You could, for example, use the Mac Magazine, or you might use a YouTube channel that is dedicated to iPhone that you particularly like, and only search on that particular site. So those are only two of quite a few different ways in which you can do searches on Google that are more targeted.